out in 105-degree heat. 105-degree heat. Today we're going to think about something called unobtrusive research. And with unobtrusive research, it's the idea that we can understand a lot about the world just by observing, without purposely designing a survey, without questioning people, just observing human behavior. So let's take a look at some related experiments. This is sort of based on experiments, but we're going to think about how there's an unobtrusive version of it.
Professor Philip Zimbardo conducts one of the most infamous experiments in the history of psychology. Known as the Stanford Prison Experiment, this dark study of human behavior had student volunteers acting out the roles of prison guards and inmates, but the role-playing soon became all too real. Subjects in the role of prison guards became domineering and hostile.
Get in that closet then. All on stage, you're going to be in there for a while.
Those in the role of inmates felt humiliation and fear.
Jesus Christ, I don't know how to explain home. Come inside! Come out!
The experiment was scheduled to last 2 weeks, but after spiraling out of control, this controversial study was abruptly stopped after just 6 days. Why? Because someone was heroic enough to stand up against what they thought was wrong. That person convinced Zimbardo to end the experiment. The experience affected Dr. Zimbardo so powerfully that he has since turned his energy away from the study of evil and onto the study of heroism. According to Zimbardo, being a hero doesn't mean you have to rescue someone from a burning building. A hero is just someone who acts selflessly, out of concern for others, at personal risk, and without the expectation of reward. It took a hero to empathize with the subjects in the Stanford Prison Experiment and stand up to Dr. Zimbardo. But where do heroes like that come from? Is heroism a personality type you're born with, or can you be taught to be a hero? And do you really need a cape? I sat down with Philip Zimbardo and his wife, Christina Maslach, to hear about the Stanford Prison Experiment and how it brought them together as a couple.
Stanford Prison Study was supposed to go for 2 weeks, and we had to terminate it early because of some unexpected turbulence in the study.
I was just really upset at what I was seeing, and just a sort of dehumanization, and people are watching and nobody's bothered by it. And it wasn't just Phil, it was everybody else. People were sort of teasing me, some of the other grad students sort of saying, well, hey, you just got your PhD in psychology. This is human behavior, right?
But it's upsetting in 2 ways. One, that this shouldn't be human behavior. This is so mean, but also...
It's inhuman behavior.
It's inhuman behavior. And also, is it also inhuman to just watch it and not intervene?
Of course.
Mm-hmm.
In retrospect.
Yeah.
No, but when you're in it, you're part of the evil. I was looking at it through a different lens, and everybody is saying, the graduates said, wow, this is really interesting, playing back the videos during the night, and she's just saying, blowing the whistle on this, you know.
I could not understand how we were not seeing things in the same way.
But then the key thing she says about our relationship is...
Yeah, if this is the real you, then we're done. This is over.
And at that moment, that was the slap in the face. That was the wake-up call. Hello, wake up. She said, I don't think I want to continue my relationship with you. And that's heroic. Heroes take action, which involves a personal risk. She said, come to your senses and, parentheses, make the right decision. And if you don't, I'm out of here.
And did you make the decision to end the experiment that night?
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Being a hero means putting yourself on the line to help others. But in the real world, ethics can get murky, and those who are celebrated as heroes by some can be denounced as villains by others. In 1971, former military analyst Daniel Ellsberg leaked secret documents he had access to regarding the Vietnam War. The so-called Pentagon Papers showed that the Johnson administration was lying to both the media and Congress regarding the scope of U.S. actions in Vietnam. Ellsberg faced 115 years in prison for espionage, but his case was dismissed due to illegal handling of evidence on the part of the government. More recently, both Chelsea Manning and Edward Snowden released classified government information. All three whistleblowers are now seen as heroes by some and traitors by others. What these individuals have in common is that they all risked their reputations and safety to expose what they saw as wrongdoing. Would you be willing to risk your job, your friends, your reputation to do what you thought was right? Well, to find out, let's observe the whistleblower and the bystander in their natural habitat. In a 2012 survey conducted by Dr. Zimbardo and Dr. Piero Bocchiaro, participants were asked what they would do if they were put into an unethical situation at work. Over 95% said they would disobey their boss and blow the whistle. But it's one thing to say you'd blow the whistle and another thing to actually do it. At a local community college, we set up a realistic whistleblower test with the help of Dr. Zimbardo and Dr. Bocchiaro. Our subjects were temporary employees who believed they were hired to help set up a simple psychological experiment. Authenticity, we've gained access to a local college's psychology department. So from the very moment our participants arrive, they will believe that our scientific experiment is real. But the experiment is fake, and everyone they're about to meet is an actor. You guys ready?
Absolutely.
So ready.
Psychology professor Ron Mosler will be observing the subjects from our hidden control room, while I play the role of a researcher, a very unethical researcher. First up is Sherry. Hello.
Hello.
Who's accompanied by an actor posing as another temp worker. Let me explain what we're recruiting for. I call it groundbreaking because it's a study that hasn't been done, at least at this scale. The study is a study on isolation and sensory deprivation.
Sensory deprivation?
Correct. We are going to be putting people in isolation for 10 days. There won't be any windows, no clocks, nothing to read, nothing to write on. The lights are going to be on the entire time. And there won't be anything in there but a camping toilet. In 3-day studies, we know that anxiety and delusions are quite common, but no one's ever tried 10 days. There's the potential for nervous breakdowns. There's a lot of stress on the individual, and there can be some kind of cognitive regression as well.
When will you tell them about the risks?
They'll probably be told about the risks in a debrief after the experiment.
After the experiment?
Yes.
Don't you think that's a little not so cool?
I understand, but again, I think that the greater good is served by this research. So you'll just be manning phones, calling people from our volunteer lists, and for every person you're able to confirm today, we're offering a $20 bonus. At this point, Sherry looks skeptical, but so far, she and our other subjects are going along with the assignment. However, the stakes are about to get higher. We have lists of people. Don't know why that's... Hello.
Hey, Michael, this is Trin.
Hey, Trin, how you doing?
Well, unfortunately,
I have some bad news.
the Ethics Review Board has reviewed your isolation study, and we have decided to reject it.
You there, Trin?
Yes, the study is too dangerous and potentially too
Harmful to participants. So at this point,
We can't approve it.
Okay, so this is a shutdown.
Correct. All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay, so we're not paying attention to any of that. I appreciate what ethics boards stand for, but we're going 10 days. You call the numbers on this list and get them confirmed. We got a little script for you, and we're not going to tell them about the negative side effects they could encounter. Okay? All of the subjects now understood the possible dangerous side effects of the study and were instructed to fudge their description to potential recruits. But more importantly, they knew the study was not approved by the Academic Review Board. Would they go ahead and tell the truth, lie, or blow the whistle?
hello.
Hi, Alex. My name is Celeste, and I'm calling from the Psychodynamics Research Lab. We are looking for volunteers to participate in an upcoming experiment on isolation.
Anyone who joins this will be confined in isolation for 10 days.
What's the accommodations like?
You get your own personal room. It's all lit up.
She's really selling this.
Yeah.
She was not fazed by the ethical problems.
Can I bring like a book or something like that?
No, it's like your own little mini vacation from all the distractions.
I mean, like, what are the risks of being in a box without a bed for 10 days?
Good question.
I mean, that's what the study's for. So you'd be helping us discover that.
Have they done it before?
They haven't done yet in California. So we're actually making history.
Oh, all right. Well, I like making history.
Are there any, like, mental health risks?
No.
There's no risks or anything like that. It's all
No flashing lights, no fear dynamic, not a horror movie in any way, no.
He knows there are dangers. They're on a piece of paper right in front of him. But when asked if there are dangers, he labels other dangers that won't be there.
There's no endangerment. There'll be no one in the room with you.
It's nothing illegal or nothing.
Is it safe? Yes, it's not illegal.
And it's all been approved by the university?
At the moment, it is approved, yeah.
Okay.
100% lie. Is this approved by the FDA?
Yes.
It is? The FDA?
Yes, so they are aware of the study, yes.
The Food and Drug Administration? Despite knowing the experiment has been deemed dangerous and harmful, these subjects are willing to bend the truth or outright lie. Would skeptical Sherry go along as well?
This is like, really crucial type of experiment and research that they're trying to embark upon.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I just don't think I can do it.
This is not, something that I want to pressure you or anybody. So the answer is no. You're so welcome. Yeah. Bye-bye.
Okay.
Come in.
We sent in our actor, who was posing as another temp worker, to see how the other subjects felt about the job.
How's it going?
I've gotten 2 yeses.
No way.
Yeah.
Congrats, man.
Thanks. I feel weird because I personally don't believe in risking damaging people in any way. And right here, nervous breakdowns, mental regression, anxiety. We're asking people if we can low-key torture them a little bit. That's what it is.
He knows it's one step above Hannibal Lecter. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know how I'm feeling about this, I mean, how do you feel about it?
I feel like once these people say yes, then they get them here, they're going to have to break this down further. I don't think it's going to get anybody. Personally.
In a different way, she's justified. So yeah, nobody's going to sign up anyway. Do you think, it's ethical, I guess, to be doing something like that?
It's almost like it would be better if we didn't know.
I know, right?
The participants seemed to have issues with the study, but they all continued to make calls anyway. After about a half an hour, it was time to give them the opportunity to blow the whistle.
I'm Trin Allen.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. I'm with the university's Ethics Review Board.
Oh, wonderful.
Do you mind if I just ask you a couple of questions about your involvement?
Oh, we're just reaching out, seeing people who are interested in the upcoming experiment about isolation.
Are you telling them about any potential side effects? Because isolation has been linked to some very severe depression and anxiety and that sort of thing.
Gotcha. Mm-hmm. It can be linked to that, but it's also great for learning. Why am I anxious? Why am I depressed? Why am all this stuff? So it's fun for to face all that.
She's really rationalizing it very well.
What have you been telling them about the study?
I don't really know all the details. It's my first day here.
Does it seem like it's an ethical experiment?
Yes, very much.
I'm just wondering if there's any concerns that you've had about anything that you've seen.
Oh, no.
Yeah?
No.
Okay. He knows that the isolation study isn't happening.
Yes.
Hovering for me.
Yeah.
Are they being told that they can leave at any time?
No.
That's a pretty clear violation. Is that something that you would be willing to report? It's totally up to you.
I prefer not to. Yeah.
Okay.
Not one of these subjects blew the whistle, even when given the opportunity.
Have you had any concerns so far with any of the work that you're doing?
I mean, he's having us call on something that I guess you might have already told him that he shouldn't, but then he's saying that, no, you guys can make some calls because I don't need approval to move forward on this. This is important research.
And how did you feel about being told to tell people to still participate?
Well, what I thought about, I felt in my heart that he was not being upfront with revealing the side effects.
Okay.
If you're from the ethic board, then you need to know.
Would you be willing to go on the record?
God, what do I have to lose? I don't have a problem with that.
Great. I appreciate that you care about that.
Thank you.
That's very important.
Wow, she did it.
Good for her. Good for her.
Out of our 5 subjects, only 1 was willing to blow the whistle. It was time to blow the whistle on what we were really studying.
Here's what's really going on. There is no isolation study. This is a study on whistleblowers.
Jesus, have mercy. This is a trip. You guys.
What was going on in your head when you were deciding if you should be loyal to your job and what I told you to do versus...
You know, when I saw the symptoms being crossed out, that's when I said, oh, heck no. Because I was feeling like, you know what? He can't get away with this.
But Sherry was the exception.
So why did you not spill all the beans?
You asked me to do something, and I'm here to work for you. So I feel like that was my first allegiance.
Did you feel bad, though? Did you feel like you shouldn't be doing this?
I did feel bad, but, I mean, I've done sales before, so, I mean, like, sometimes you just got to do what you got to do.
We had Trin come in to see if you would tell on me, but you didn't. Why?
I don't know. Sometimes I'm more loyal to people than I guess maybe what my conscience fully tells me.
When asked, we'd like to believe we would do the right thing. But when we're in the actual situation, it's very difficult to be a hero.
Georgetown University scanned the brains of kidney donors, a pretty good example of people who help others at risk to themselves with little perceived personal benefit. The scans showed that people who willingly give up a kidney for a stranger have a larger than average amygdala, a part of the brain that deals with a range of emotions, including compassion. The researchers also found that the amygdala in these altruistic individuals responded more strongly than average to seeing other people in distress.
But if you weren't blessed with a larger amygdala, could you be trained to be a hero?
To that question in a moment, but well, that was a pre-experimental design with a group of people that were added before and after. Imagine this was just your observations from work, right? You saw this kind of stuff happening at work. Probably likely be in a scenario something like this, where you know people are doing things that they know are harmful to others on some level. And so you know a lot about the world just by watching and observing what's happening, right? And so this is the idea of unobtrusive research. So you know that from your own experience whether people are going to stand up and do what's good or what's best for them personally, right? I've discovered in the academic world, we're supposed to publish things for the benefit of society. We're supposed to discover best treatments, best interventions, right? But ultimately, every person that's collecting data and writing it up for publication is only thinking about their next promotion and their next paycheck. And so there's a scandal going on at Harvard right now with fake data, where a lot of the studies that they published recently turn out not to be replicable because the pressure is heavy to keep your job. You got to keep discovering new things, and it's not every day that you can discover something new. So we're going to learn today about unobtrusive observations and something called the Hawthorne effect. Have you ever hear of the Hawthorne effect? I always feel a close affiliation with Hawthorne because my name Hagedorn means someone who lives near a hawthorn bush. And sense, but that is the truth. So anyway, Hawthorne effect. It means the fact that you're being observed changes your behavior. So this Hawthorne factory, they wanted to see whether making the lights brighter made the people work faster. And they found that it's true. Making the lights brighter made the people work faster. Then they want to see if we make the lights dimmer, does it make the people work slower? But by making the lights dimmer, the people also worked faster. And so when they were playing with the level of the lights, what was changing is that the people knew that they were being observed. So the workers were in the factory were working faster. And so the Hawthorne effect, when you know you're being observed, it changes your behavior. the experiment we just saw, the people knew that there were cameras recording them, and so that might have changed their behavior some, but you can imagine that there are many times in your real life where you're in a situation, you know what's happening, and there are no cameras, and so we don't have the Hawthorne effect, basically, in real-world experiments. And then we don't always need a standardized measurement. We can look at indirect measurements. We're going to see what those are in a few minutes. And we're going to look at something called secondary data analysis. Secondary data just means it already exists. For your class paper, you're going to describe a primary data collection. And primary data is data you get to design yourself, who you collect it from, and what kind of questions you ask, and how you're going to find the subjects in the first place. That, when you control everything, it's great because you can control all the details. However, if you do primary data collection, chances are you can only have a small number of people. The really big studies that have already been collected, there's a lot of valuable information in there, and so we can analyze existing data and find out a lot more. And so for some of your paper topics, it turns out that we can answer the question using existing data, just sometimes in a different way. So different ways that we can look at unobtrusive research include things like historical analysis. So we can understand a lot about the human psyche by just reviewing what's already been published, already been written. You guys are familiar maybe with the idea of meta-analysis, and a meta-analysis is looking at the results of other studies. That's a type of unobtrusive research where you don't need to disturb anyone. You look at what's already out there, and you can draw new conclusions using what's already out there or what's already been written and it already exists. Content analysis is like a type of qualitative analysis where you're interpreting the words, but in this case, we're talking about things that have already been collected by other people at other times, so it already exists. And secondary means somebody else collected it. The government is creating a lot of data through the Census Bureau, through the National Center for Health Statistics, through the Centers for Disease Control, and other government branches. So lots already exist that businesses and organizations can use. So the strengths of unobtrusive methods, where there is no survey, there is no interview, you just observe and take notes on what's already happening naturally or what has already been collected, is that there's less likely to be this Hawthorne effect in the sense that participants, you're not observing them, so you're not getting any change in behavior. And of course, it's cheaper if you don't have to spend the time collecting data. You can just spend all your time analyzing existing things, so it's more cost effective. And you're probably be more aware of the mistakes other people made than your own mistakes. We can always justify any mistakes that we make. It's just, oh, that's just how it is. But we can see it in other people, and we can potentially observe and correct those mistakes. And there's tremendous historical data that may be out there. However, limitations, we have issues of validity in that data that's nationally representative might not represent a subgroup of the population, or what was true in data at one time period may not be true anymore. There's a good chance that what you want to study, the data doesn't already exist. And that was the limitations and gap in the literature for your proposal. Oftentimes you're asking a question for which we don't have data, so you can't use unobtrusive methods. And then the context. We often, if you don't talk to the subjects yourself, if you don't see them, you may not understand the context that they live in. You may make some false assumptions about what's happening. So when we're looking at historical comparative research using kind of existing data, we're almost always using qualitative methods based on existing things that were written. And we could do like a policy analysis where we're exploring the effect of different policies on behaviors. Lots of different things that we could do, but oftentimes secondary sources are good enough. And this word that's going to be on your quiz, but we don't have the quiz until next Tuesday, until next Monday. Monday's class, we're going to go over the topic for the last quiz. So, but beware, you need to know this word hermeneutics. And hermeneutics is the art of interpretation, the idea that what we're understanding is open to interpretation. And so the truth isn't always obvious. It's open to different interpretations, and based on your perspective, previous people may have interpreted it in a way that doesn't make sense anymore, doesn't make sense for the context, so you can offer your own hermeneutic approach, your own interpretation. So while there are certainly instances of content analysis in which secondary sources are analyzed, it's more common for content analysts to analyze primary sources, things that they've collected themselves. In cases where secondary sources are analyzed, the researcher's focus is usually on the process by which the original analyst or presenter reached their own conclusions or choices were made. So when we're doing content analysis, we're just reading what's already been collected. It could be interpreting primary, which means stuff you collected yourself, or secondary, what someone else has done. And there's plenty of ways you can explore things that are existed in books or journals or graffiti on the streets, anything that's printed in some way. You can analyze movies, TV shows, YouTube videos, TikTok videos, anything like that, visual media, performances. So basically, content analysis could be anything, exploring what is being expressed. And so you could ask research questions that explore any form of expression. And if it's existing secondary data, then it's unobtrusive. When we're talking about indirect measures, we're thinking about things that don't answer our question directly, but could give us hints. So anthropologists are going to be using a lot of these indirect measures where they're exploring a worn path to see evidence of where people walked, right? Or exploring landfill where people threw away, or exploring empty shelves in the grocery store. So we can explain something about human behavior by just looking at the environment, artifacts. So you can understand a lot about hoarding and hoarders by looking at their homes and the objects that they keep, such. So sometimes you don't have to ask the person every detail. You can get it from physical traces, or you can interpret material artifacts like artwork, memorials on the highway, event flyers, things like that. So these are all giving us a hint about society and how society values certain behaviors or certain concepts. When we're looking at existing data, the advantages of it is that it's cost effective and doesn't take as much time to analyze. So the most prolific researchers are the people that use secondary data, and we can use secondary data to answer new questions because no one's used the data in that way, or we could just replicate the results using a different method, or we can look at data that no one else has analyzed in that way. And so there's a lot of use. Just one data of a large data set that has a lot of variables could be published hundreds and hundreds of times, asking different variations of questions. So secondary data analysis reduces the time. You can crank out a secondary data analysis paper in one day, just writing some statistics on the variables, or reading it again and again, coding some themes, and identifying some common traits across people. So if you're in a hurry, you're going to use secondary data sources or unobtrusive observations that you've already made in some way. The limitations are that it may not be truly anonymous, and there could be missing qualitative context, a lot that you do not understand about the data because you weren't there. and there can be barriers to access. A lot of the best secondary data requires connections to the people. Every publicly available data set, there's often a restricted data version of it that has the best variables, and so it's only available to people that have a history of publishing high-impact research or have enough money to pay the funding agency for it. So just because it exists doesn't mean it's available to everyone. Other problems with secondary data that you'll need to know for your quiz, but we'll go again over on Monday. The data may be out of date. Like pre-pandemic and post-pandemic, it's like a different world. Sometimes things change. Sometimes definitions, diagnoses, and vocabulary changes. For healthcare, the International Classification of Disease version 10 totally changed the labels for some mental health conditions, and so we can't always trace back because detail is lost as we go back in time. We have no control over the variables and the information that was collected, so sometimes you might realize that that's not the best way to ask something, but you don't in fact have a better way. There could be missing data in the sense that people just refuse to answer. Typically, in a test, in a survey where you ask people about their income, around a quarter of people won't answer the income question. They'll just leave it blank. And people that don't answer it are different than people that do. They're either very high income or very low income. And so we simply just do not know. We can guess, but we don't know if they refuse to answer questions. Sometimes the coding is complicated. There's many different response options, or it requires weighting in that they oversampled an underrepresented population, and in order to get the right result, representative of the population, you have to apply the weights. And particularly with longitudinal data, you might not use the right weighting variable, and sometimes we just don't have all the right documentation. So it brings up this question that he asked about, can you train a hero? What do you think? We saw that only 1 out of the 5 people there was willing to stand up and say this isn't right. I mean, I say that's probably about right from my experiences, but that's a small sample. We can't necessarily extrapolate. I want to show you now this idea. So Zimbardo, who did the Stanford prison experiment, decided that he wanted to devote the rest of his life to training heroes. So he thought, okay, we're going to put people through a hero training class and we'll change them. Let's see whether or not you can do that.
Nearly half a century after the Stanford prison experiment, Dr. Zimbardo's mission is to turn everyday people into heroes.
How do you teach someone to be more heroic? I started a nonprofit foundation called the Heroic Imagination Project. The acronym is HIP. I work with a team of educators, and we created a series of lessons based around fundamental principles of social psychology. How do you transform passive bystanders into active heroes? To stand up, speak out, take wise and effective action in challenging situations in their family, in their life.
Could people be trained to act heroically? That's the goal of the seminars Zimbardo's staff is conducting all around the world.
This is actually part of the Heroic Imagination Project, and what we're going to do today is really look at or focus on how you can become an everyday hero. What I need you to all be thinking about is this idea of the bystander effect, that the more people that are present, the less likelihood you have of actually receiving help. It's hard to be the first person. But if you see an emergency, you should take that responsibility to actually be the first. Once that one person actually helps, so many others will help.
Dr. Fiebig uses visual aids and current events to demonstrate how to overcome the obstacles that often hold you back from being a hero.
What research shows is that African Americans are 2 times more likely to offer help. Hispanic males, not women, are also 2 times more likely to offer help.
Before the class, I honestly thought, like, to be a hero, you really had to be someone of a calling, destined to do greatness. But after the class, I feel like you definitely can be normal and be a hero.
After taking the class, I would definitely be the first person to respond because that person needs saving.
In written surveys, past HIP graduates have stated that they would act heroically in the future, but they haven't been put to the test. Until now. We waited 6 weeks, then recruited 5 HIP students for a fake marketing event, which seemingly had nothing to do with their heroism class. We set our event at a local church, placed hidden cameras, and hired actors to play the other participants. Finally, for a control group, we also recruited 5 students who did not take the HIP class.
But what we're really testing is what it's like to be a bystander and what makes a hero. This is our control room. From inside here, our crew will be able to watch everything going on, and we'll be able to speak with the actors through earpieces they have hidden inside their ears. This is Lisa and Barry, actors who will be creating today's crisis. Hopefully we find a hero. I will be observing from inside this room with Elle Charlotte, a HIP campus coordinator. Ready?
Let's go.
All right.
Our first subject was IML, who did not take the HIP class.
You've been selected to test a new phone that's going to be on the market.
Wow, how exciting!
So it's just going to be like another 10 or 15 minutes.
But before I can let you guys back,
So I will need to collect your phones.
We took their phones so they wouldn't be distracted and to avoid the chance of one of them calling the actual police.
Okay. Lisa, Barry, you guys ready?
Yeah.
Head on out.
It was time to create our crisis.
I was supposed to get cake.
Barry, enough with the cake.
A bullying nurse and a feeble old man who could use some help from a hero on a hot day in July.
I didn't have water in there.
I need you to shut up about the water.
I think she's noticing what's happening.
Hey, Sally, how you doing? Oh, always. Calm down, I'm on the phone. Shut up.
Can I just take
Well, you know
water?
how Barry is. He's always complaining about something.
Now she's looking away because it's a little hard to look at. Like, that's not right. I don't like this.
I need a little bit of water.
I don't think you need anything. Just shut up about the water.
She
Put the
just put her
glasses on.
sunglasses on.
So she can look and not be seen to be looking.
IML clearly disapproved, but none of our actors made a move to help, and she didn't either. We gave her several more minutes, but she never got up from the bench.
Let's go.
We wanted to know why.
So you've just participated in a psychological experiment. Everyone here is an actor except for you. When something is going wrong. Were you watching Barry and Lisa?
Oh, I was. And they were
And?
having a hard time.
Did you feel like it was bad enough that someone needed to go in and help?
I kind of trusted that the people around me would probably notice something, and if anything, they would say something.
The way that you interpreted the situation as, you know, why isn't anyone else doing something? Then it must not be as important for me to do something. That's the bystander effect, pretty much showing the power of that situation.
IML did not act heroically. It was time to test a HIP student. Remember Courtney?
I would definitely be the first person to respond because that person needs saving.
I'll be
What is your tattoo?
Oh, it's fallopian tubes giving the middle finger.
Oh, wow.
It seems like she's pretty socially active.
Yes.
Lisa, please, a little bit of water.
If you stop talking, you won't be as thirsty.
Why won't you give me water?
How many times do I have to explain this to you? Every time you drink water, you have to go to the restroom.
This is abuse. She's refusing to give him water because she doesn't want him to go to the bathroom.
No.
Hey, how's it going? He's being his regular rambunctious self. I need you. I'm on the phone.
Wow.
That's hard to ignore. Hey, calm down.
I'm calm.
Oh, she's getting up.
Look, I'm just gonna have to
No kidding.
Okay. Yeah, for sure. I told you whenever I'm on the phone to not talk or do anything like this, you're totally lost your water privileges for the rest of the day.
I will straight up walk up to her.
Why can't I have water? Why? Why are you not letting me have water?
Excuse me, is everything okay?
Yeah, everything's fine.
Would you like some of my water, sir?
I would like some water.
Oh my gosh.
I will make sure I find a supervisor on site for you, sir. I'm very sorry, that's all I have.
That's all right. Thank you.
Courtney displayed heroism today. Was it due to her HIP training?
My name's Elle. I've been working with Heroic Imagination Project, And it looks like you may have learned a few things from their lessons. Do you want to tell us a little bit about your experience?
You shouldn't be a bystander, you know? I just couldn't let it happen.
How did that affect how you acted today?
It affected me because I made sure I went up and said something. I don't think I would have if I didn't learn from that project before.
Really? Courtney, you are a hero. Good work. Thank you, Courtney. Thank you.
Courtney's behavior appeared to relate to her HIP training. Another HIP student was next.
If a situation arose, I would definitely try to be a hero if I could be. Or at least I would find someone who could do something better than me.
But would Elijah live up to his prediction?
No, turn around. Turn around.
I need water.
What did I just say? Turn around.
I was...
How many times I have to tell you something like that?
I mean, it seems pretty bad. Should we do something?
But I was quiet.
No, you weren't quiet, and because of that, you're not going to have any water, okay?
Maybe like group intervene, so one of us doing it. Strength in numbers. I don't know. Yeah, let's just come on. All right, let's go. Strength in numbers.
Oh, very good. He's our first person to recruit.
He is. He's also the leader of the group.
Yes.
Utilizing the be the first strategy from the class.
You want some more water?
That's fine.
Thanks.
So far, 2 HIP students had displayed heroism. Next, we tested a HIP student and a non-HIP student at the same time.
He's complaining about water.
I'm not complaining.
Usual. He's complaining about not having
I'm not
food.
complaining.
After taking this class, if I find myself in a situation where someone would need help, I find myself more inclined to definitely step in and step up.
Would Jessica step up?
Stop complaining right now.
I'm not.
Really? Wow.
I need some water.
Yeah.
Catherine
and our actress both got up to give the man water, while the HIP student, Jessica, remained seated.
It's super hot. I can't even stick my feet up.
Catherine didn't take the HIP class. Why did she intervene? And why didn't the HIP student get up to help?
Catherine, why do you think you were first?
I'm Greek and Italian, so
You're not afraid to step in.
no, not at all.
Jessica, you've been through a program called HIP.
Yes.
Did you think about that during this?
A lot. I wanted to stand up. I have really pretty bad anxiety. I am not a very confrontational person.
Clearly, the hero training class was not the only factor at work here. We ran the test several more times with a mixed bag of results. HIP students who helped.
I'm going to go in and get that woman. Yeah.
She went looking for help.
HIP students who did nothing, and non-HIP students who acted heroically.
I'm going to just ask him if he wants to.
She's doing it.
Oh, what's he doing
Okay, he's
here?
moving around. All right.
Is he gonna secretly give Barry water?
Yes, thank you.
Our last subject of the day, Ruben, did not take the HIP class, and we decided to make taking heroic action as difficult for him as possible. We instructed our bystander actors not to react to the elder abuse or encourage Ruben in any way.
I didn't have enough water.
We just got here, Barry.
I know, but I'm thirsty.
Would you stop complaining?
I'm not.
Just stop complaining.
I just need some water. That's all I need. Just a little bit of water.
Look at this piercing look.
He's clearly paying attention, but there's just no emotion there.
Yeah, and he's getting no feedback from the rest of the group.
You're making a scene for no reason. Hey, leave that alone.
No,
Leave that alone.
I just want some water. I just want a little bit of water.
Just fine. Just relax.
Despite the remarkable social cost of getting up in such a disaffected group of people, he did it.
You don't want to share the water. I could give him my water. It's fine. Is that okay?
Wow.
Personally, if you were taking care of my parent like that, I mean, there would be definitely some lawsuits because that's not the way you treat somebody.
With no training and no support from the group, Ruben chose to be a hero. Why?
If I don't take action, then nobody else will. And I was like, I wish I would have stood up sooner. Now I feel like in the future, if I were to have a situation like this, like I wouldn't even think twice.
Scientists have studied heroism. One thing they have found is that Hispanic and black males are the most likely to intervene.
It makes sense, maybe because of the background that we come from. As a minority, we have to defend ourselves. And I think it's a subconscious thing that we do. I'm just in shock right now.
When it came to being a hero, we found that the HIP class could only help to a certain extent, and individual background played a vital role. So, can heroic behavior be taught, or does it really boil down to personality?
I mean, ideally, an educational program like ours should transcend personality differences, but practice makes perfect. The key to heroism is starting with very little steps try to do a good deed of kindness and be willing to make a bigger step.
We had a very small sample size in our demonstration, but we found that people of color were much more likely to take action. Why?
If you're a minority person, the system is usually your enemy. So you can't say, well, the police will help, or the government will help, or the landlord will help. So it's me or no one.
Right.
And so you're just more sensitive to people in need.
Not all heroes are the same. The wisest course of action won't be the same for any two people, but making it a habit to look for opportunities to be compassionate and stepping back to see and consider all available options can be learned. It's a skill exercised like a muscle by repetition. You don't have to wear a cape to be a hero, but if you want to, that's okay. And as always, thanks for watching!
A little silliness there. But it actually bothered me a little bit that we can't train heroes, because when we're trying to train social workers, we're sort of trying to train you guys to be heroes in a way too, right? To stand up and intervene. And if you can't train people to stand up for situations like that, then can we really train social workers? Or are you guys just born that way? And we just, is the success of our school based on just who we recruiting the right people, and has nothing to do with what we're actually training? Good question. And actually, when I was at my other school, it's a school for super rich people, and I did this survey of the students at the beginning, thinking I taught freshman seminar, and we were asking them, like, what's the secret to success? Is it how hard you study here? Is it your internship? Is it your networking? And I came up with my own kind of conclusion that, well, all that plays some role, and you learn stuff in the class. Ultimately, the reason why students that go to Stanford and Harvard go on to have high-paying careers isn't so much that Stanford or Harvard taught them anything, is that they purposely selected people that were already bound for success anyways. And, they just put them under some experiences that tested them and pushed them to some limits. But often it isn't what you learn in school that is valuable, but you, right? Your unique kind of knowledge and skills. The book, All I Ever Needed to Know I Learned in Kindergarten, is actually somewhat true in that you're forming your general identity. And once you know who you are, that's what's going to drive you going forward for a career. I just have one more thing I want to show you guys relate to all this, and this is the idea of moral licensing. Have I shown you the moral licensing video yet? I think so. It's really interesting concept.
Moral psychology isn't always an easy thing to study. First of all, just using a survey to ask people what they think is moral doesn't always reveal what they would do in real life. An experiment that actually puts people in what feels like a real scenario may get more realistic results, but researchers must always balance the benefits of what we could learn with the safety and well-being of the people they study. Secondly, what we learn from moral psychology experiments doesn't always make humans look good. For example, today we're going to look at moral licensing, the theory that when you do something good, you subconsciously feel you've earned a license to then do something bad. I've been working with Dr. Kyle Stanford from the Department of Logic and Philosophy of Science at the University of California, Irvine, on a way to observe moral licensing in the wild. So I want to see moral licensing in effect. I want to see people who have been led to believe through their own actions that they're good use that feeling to do bad.
The thing to keep in mind, it's like people are keeping tabs and they give themselves credit for the good thing they did, but none of that is happening consciously, right? Mm-hmm. So we shouldn't imagine that a person who's engaged in moral licensing is asking themselves in their head,
right, pulling out their scorecard.
What should I be? Does it make me a good person? But it is going on, and they don't experience it.
They don't know that it's happening.
Right.
I think we're going to learn a lot today. I say we go get started.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. So here's how the moral licensing test we designed is going to work. First, we're going to take this beautiful park and, for the purposes of science, throw trash everywhere. Next, we've hired some unsuspecting actors who think they're going to film a public service announcement about the park.
Hey, man. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Once they've arrived, it will be obvious that the trash is a problem.
And we just need to clean up this like little alleyway right here.
Will they do a good deed and earn some moral credit by volunteering to help pick up the trash or not? And to make everything feel more real, we did have them film our fake PSA.
Forget the concrete and the heat. Relax in over 16,000 square feet
Of outdoor space that can't be beat. Right outside your door. Right outside your door.
right outside your door.
After shooting the PSA, each participant will be asked to wait in a separate area for some final paperwork. There, our Confederate Cameron, who appears to be homeless, will ask them for money. Meanwhile, Dr. Stanford and I will be watching behind the scenes to observe how our subjects react. So, will our participants keep their subconscious moral scorecards balanced by giving money when they didn't clean, or feeling like they don't need to give money if they did?
Hey, Michaela, nice to meet you.
First up in our demo was Michaela. We used our actual minefield crew as the crew of the fake PSA, who are overwhelmed with the task of cleaning up all the trash.
We normally sort of never ask this, but we got like all this stuff that we're trying to clean up. I'm gonna grab some gloves. I was wondering, would you help me? I'm sorry.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
All three of us can triple team it.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
Going.
Let's do it.
Yeah, this is just what we wanted to do today. Looks like someone had a good time, all right?
All right, so picking up the trash, how do you think that's currently sitting with our actor?
He's thinking of himself as having done a good deed that he didn't need to do, that he didn't have to do, right? And so the moral credit is high.
Then it was time to shoot our PSA.
Take it away.
Forget the concrete and the heat. Relax. In 16,000 square feet.
That was great. Hi, man. Hey,
Cool.
thanks so much.
No problem, man.
We compensated our participants for the PSA in small bills, so they would have plenty to give the homeless man should they choose to do so.
There's $50. Thank you.
Then we asked them to wait in a nearby tent for their final paperwork. Will Michaelo's good deed be enough moral credit for him to pass on helping the homeless guy? All right, Cameron, this is Michael. You can go ahead.
What's up?
What's up?
Hi. Are you with this?
Yeah, I'm just waiting for someone to help me out here.
Could you help me out with like $1 or $2 just so I can build a vending machine?
Sorry, but man, I got nothing but $20 bills on me right now.
Oh, I got nothing but $20 bills.
You sure?
Yeah, man.
All right. Well,
Go talk to him. Hey, Michaela.
Hey.
Thanks for waiting. I'm Michael.
No problem, okay.
Nice to meet you. This is Kyle.
Nice to meet you, Michaela.
Oh, we really appreciate your help today. I just saw, did a guy come by?
Yes.
What did he ask?
For $1 bill.
Oh, for $1 bill.
Yeah.
Did you give him money?
No.
Oh, what'd you tell him?
I just told him I didn't have anything.
So I'm going to debrief you on what we're doing here today. We're doing a psychological exploratory experiment on what's called moral licensing. We're looking at the correlation between people who do volunteer to help pick up the trash and how generous you are later to a homeless person who walks by.
Interesting.
Now, you just exhibited the exact pattern of moral licensing, right? And that you had already done a good deed.
So I was good for today. Yeah, right.
Did we just see moral licensing in effect? Perhaps. But let's see what our other subjects do.
Here, we just have you hang out here. Is there anybody that can help us clean up this?
I'm going to go look around.
All right.
Okay, so this is Alex, and Alex is just messing with his stuff.
He's either not really noticing or pretending not to notice. But all of that is just fine. And the question is what he then goes on to do.
So Alex didn't help pick up trash, Will his guilt put him at a moral deficit and therefore motivate him to give money to the homeless man?
Hey, can you spare some money, man? Maybe help me out.
Want a buck?
A buck? Yeah, that.
Can I give you a buck? Is that cool?
That's more than cool, man.
I just got paid to be here.
Really?
Yeah. Well, shooting a PSA, yeah.
Where do I sign up?
All right, man. Take care.
All right. Very interesting. I do wonder if he felt a little bit of guilt.
We got it in the opposite direction, which was going to be the hard thing to do.
Yeah.
I'm very happy about this.
Next, we have Jake.
So I'm on set doing a PSA shoot.
Hey, he's doing a vlog.
And I get here, and it appears that someone had what can only be described as a trash party. I mean, they just threw trash literally everywhere, all over where they want to shoot. So I'm going to go help them pick up some of the trash.
First, I'm going to make sure that I document that I'm a helper. I would also like to point out, though, that he has not helped.
Right.
He's gone back into the tent. And I wonder, when it comes to moral licensing, does this play an effect? I can check the box. Not only am I good, but the world knows I'm good.
Mm-hmm. Now, this is something we haven't seen before.
I love this. I love that he got credit for helping, but didn't.
Right. What's interesting but hard to know is how that'll look to him, whether he'll see himself as having done a good deed or seeing himself as kind of skated on the obligation because he didn't really help.
Hey, do you think you could spare some money? Maybe help me out?
Here, man, here's $1.
Really?
Yeah. Go for it.
All right, you're a good man. Thank you.
We were really curious as we were watching this all unfold because you agreed to help and then you recorded a video about how you're going to help. But by the time all that was over, you didn't need to help. It was all cleaned up.
Right.
So we were wondering, did you feel like you had helped or not?
No. I didn't have time to.
And you didn't feel guilty, like, ooh, I kind of like got out of helping.
No, I didn't feel bad about that. I would have definitely picked up trash.
Erin's likely to be thinking that she's doing a good deed.
Yeah. Could you maybe help me out? Give me some money?
Oh, sorry, I don't have anything on me here.
No?
They won't let me.
Oh.
Yeah.
That was great.
Yes. We have a couple good illustrations in both directions.
We seemed to have witnessed moral licensing at play in several cases. But of course, as with any demonstration like this, our results weren't always cut and dry.
I'm going to go try to clean this up myself, and then...
Gotcha. Yeah.
Some of the participants both didn't help clean and declined to give our homeless man money.
Could you maybe spare some change? I just want to go to a vending machine.
However, they did find other ways to help him that could qualify as a good deed.
They have snacks, maybe.
Well, I'm going to take a pop.
Okay.
Do you want a soda or something?
Yeah, that'd be... You maybe have a little money as well?
I don't, sorry, but...
Okay.
Which one do you want?
So what was going through your mind when you made the decision not to give some of the cash that we know you had to the man who was asking?
You know, they're just like a whole bunch of like stereotypes about like homeless people.
You don't know what you're getting into.
Yeah.
And we had a couple subjects who both volunteered to clean and gave money.
Do you need any assistance? If you wouldn't mind, that'd be really helpful.
Oh, he's offering to help.
Do you know?
Oh, would you mind?
She's volunteered.
She offered.
These were the only two participants who did good deeds at both opportunities.
Thank you so much for the help.
Of course.
Do you maybe have some spare change? Thanks a lot.
Best of luck.
Here you go.
Thank
Hope
you
at
so
home.
much.
You're welcome.
All right, let's go talk to her.
Another good person.
What motivated you to give the man money?
I tend to give people money often. I don't know if that's the best thing.
Interesting. So two people both cleaned and donated money, but everyone else either cleaned and didn't give, or didn't clean but gave in some form. What do you think about how everything went?
Well, it was really interesting. I would like to do it with many more people. But I think we saw the phenomenon, right? We saw the thing happen. Something we weren't expecting, actually, is the sort of the gap between what people did and what they said about why they did it.
Yeah.
right? And that's something, I mean, social psychology generally has learned to be very suspicious of people's rationales or justifications for their own behavior. But these actually fit kind of nicely. You could see people straining to defend themselves if they didn't do a good deed that was open to them, right? And then a lot of people who did good deeds had the, well, of course, it's what anyone would do attitude, right?
Yeah.
And so this is an interesting phenomenon in that a lot of people that are in jail thought they were good people and could get away with something because they had done some good deed earlier in their life. And a lot of people that take drugs start off thinking it's, they do good things, they can get away with it. So that effect we just saw, moral licensing does a good job of opening our eyes to how people think. The online student, Rory, asked us questions. What are the ethics surrounding social experiments like this? What do you think? Is there a moral concern in experimenting with people about this? I mean, there's certainly some sense of deception. They don't know what they're in, what they're being watched for. Is there some added value to society in knowing these things? Okay. Right. I mean, does the knowledge that we get from this worth the suffering that the people we observe went through? Mm-hmm. Got it. Yeah. Certainly our real life experience teaches us more than watching it passively. Just like the hip training we saw, watching passively doesn't transform you the same way as real life experience would. But it can open our eyes, seeing these kind of experiments and the information being publicly available. For people that might be innocent-minded, thinking everyone is good, you can see that there's a gap between intentions and actions sometimes. And with moral licensing, a big gap sometimes between how we justify things. We got some online discussion happening here. I'm sorry, the font size is so small. Rory thought, or Amanda said, I think it would be okay since there's no long-term harm, and the 10-day study would be unethical because there could be long-term harm, right? People that are isolated. I think actually there's another video that this person, Michael Stevens, made a video of himself actually isolating himself for 10 days and some of the mental challenges that he had going through it. So he did it to himself later on, inspired by this, just to explore what would happen, and what he thought would happen did happen. Mental anxiety, discomfort, sleep cycle problems, and things like that. It could be, Rory's thinking, it could be tough in some instances. Certainly there's some people that couldn't handle this. And we saw with the train track thing that they had like a screening process. And I think in general, they're screening people before they put them in there. She said when I was in my 8th grade AP English class, and all the AP English classes were subjected to an experiment like this. We were taken into a room and told that the local chemical plant had a leak and that we would all lose our eyesight, and that we had a few days to a week before we went completely blind. My goodness. None of our parents were notified or asked for consent. So there were around 100 or so 13-year-olds having panic attacks and breaking down because we were told we would go blind. Wow. I'm 40 and I still have nightmares about this. So there we go. So, well, I hadn't heard of an experiment quite like that, but that sounds like an example of an unethical deception. purpose of the experiment was for us to discuss what we might do if we lost our eyesight. Oh, I see. But I have a feeling the person who designed this probably had some moral licensing in their mind that, you know, they can get away with this because of the value of what it would teach them, right? But that said, of course, feeling like you're going to lose your life or something important to your life, that is certainly panic-inducing. I would say that what we saw so far, I mean, the trolley train, where they thought they were killing people, is closest to that. But today's topic wasn't quite as bad. See, the purpose of the experiments for us to discuss. Okay, custody in Texas, 1996. All right, so there we go. Rory had been in something that will be in the ethics textbooks going into the future. Never know. And I think partly, too, the value of seeing these kinds of things and hearing stories like Rory's tells us all sort of what are the limits of what we can do. And it sounds like the voice is obviously extreme, but for marginalized people or people who could be at greater risk for standing up, there could be more detrimental effects, right? So, yeah, so I would say that in modern times, we couldn't do that. If we had an IRB, Institutional Review Board, review that kind of thing, or we told the principal of the school or the dean of the school that that's what we were going to do, they wouldn't let us do that because we are more aware of the risks of these kinds of behaviors. But in reality, anything can happen. So thank you so much, Rory, for sharing that. Wow, that's really something. And Rory said earlier that there's something inherently problematic about framing basic human decency as heroism. And so, you know, what we saw wasn't really heroic, trying to get the guy water, but that's just being decent and such. So, right, he purposely set the bar very low in that, and perhaps isn't the best experiment for true heroic action. I mean, if you see someone, the other day I saw some kids begging for money on the street, and it was heartbreaking to see that. And I didn't give them anything because I had a sense that there might not be something not right in that situation, but at the same time I do feel terrible about it. And more heroic person might go up and talk to the kids and try to understand what is happening there. One last little part here I just want to show you related to this moral licensing, and this is letting a kid take the blame for something. So in this experiment, they're told don't let somebody in the room, and somebody gets let in the room, and they steal something, come out, and they want to see, would you let a child take the blame for it? Something that generally people would say no, they would never let a child take the blame, but let's see what happens.
Chance there to do something morally good that will hopefully make them feel like they don't have to step up and keep this innocent child from taking the fall for their crimes later on.
They just think they're coming to test out really cool VR equipment at the U2 space in Los Angeles. Our participants will think that they're here to focus test a new kind of VR technology. But what they don't know is that everyone else is a hired actor, including the child, Noah. Participants will be told that security is of the utmost concern and not to let anyone into the room.
Just be sure not to let anybody in, because the doors, you need a key card.
But while waiting, someone will knock on the door. If they break protocol and open the door, the man they let in will steal some of the VR equipment.
You guys have a good day.
Even though the participant let the thief in, Noah will volunteer that he did and be blamed for what the participant knows they were responsible for.
And Noah, you let him in?
Yeah, I let someone in.
Putting participants into difficult moral scenarios needs to be done carefully, so we have a psychiatrist on call. Now, with all the details in place, it's time to begin.
All right, Noah, we are starting now.
All right. Head on in. Go ahead and grab a seat.
Our first participant is Kimberly. Kimberly gave $1 of her earnings from the study, which means she thinks that she's donated $100.
Just be sure that if you guys need to go to the bathroom or anything like that, be sure to let someone know, because no one without a key card should be coming back in.
Okay, gotcha.
All right, Noah, you can cue your mom to leave.
Stay there. Okay.
To get rid of any eyewitnesses, Noah's mom left the room to go get a coffee.
Have you done this?
No.
No?
I'm excited.
Oh, nice.
Have you?
No.
No.
I'm excited.
Oh, there's the knocking. So our thief is trying to get in. The question is, will Kimberly let him in?
Somebody knocking?
I love those suspicious eyes.
Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. You're welcome. Awesome.
You guys having a good day?
Yeah.
You guys have a good day.
Thank you.
All right, I think we are finally ready for you. Okay. I'll have you. Do you guys know if there was anybody who wasn't supposed to be in here?
Yeah, I let someone in.
Okay. Stay right here. I'll be right back.
Okie dokie.
What happened?
Kimberly didn't speak up.
We'll get to see the full escalation.
So she thought she donated $100 before she did this. So keep that in mind.
I was gone for maybe like 3 minutes. One of the sets is gone.
I mean, the amount of technology, the protocols that are kept in that. You just open the door and let someone in?
Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh. My heart rate's going.
I mean, I didn't know, so.
I think Kimberly's really nervous to say anything.
She hasn't decided at this point that she's going to let him take the blame, but she's seeing how it plays out.
To further heighten the situation and to prolong the opportunity for Kimberly to come clean, we sent in security.
How old are you, son?
12.
12? All right, just have the rest of the employees stay out of the hallway, give the officers room to come in. Okay? We have to keep things safe, because just in case there's something else going on here. Can you tell me what you saw? Is there something that you saw? Or that you noticed that was...
I literally just came like 5 minutes ago, and there was dudes coming in and out, so.
Okay. The guy that he's describing, he was coming in and out?
There was like a couple of guys coming in and out, so.
But there were tons of guys coming in and out.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to have Calvin take the kid away.
Okay, sir. Then. Mom, you and the son are going to need to come with me, okay? Yeah, still have him come in.
Kimberly was given many chances to tell the truth, but she said nothing, letting poor Noah take the blame.
Why? One little thing to follow? Sorry.
Can I go? Like, everybody left. I'm not going to be here by myself.
We got to get in there. Okay, yeah, let's go back. You, Kimberly?
I am, yeah.
I'm going to debrief you on what's been happening here today, okay? There is no VR experience. I'm Michael Stevens. I'm the host of the psychology program. And this is Kyle Stanford. He works at UC Irvine in philosophy and logic.
Yes, of course.
Now, you gave a donation today.
Yeah.
How'd you feel about that?
I was like, let me help out.
When the child actor took responsibility for letting a person in, were you at all conflicted about the fact that he was taking full responsibility for everything?
I was literally like just frozen. I was just frozen. And then I was kind of like, I feel so uncomfortable right now. I'd like just kind of let him in. And I assumed like if somebody actually took anything, they'd be like, hey, you're the one that let the guy in.
In Kimberly's case, she may have been displaying moral licensing. Kimberly donated, and that might have given her the moral credit to then not accept blame.
She's not being insincere. She's not lying. She's asking herself, like convincing herself. She's utterly typical. We all do that. What subjects are most likely doing is confabulating in a way to defend whatever behavior they engage in, especially if they decided to let Noah take the fall.
What I love is that confabulation.
Some participants gave no donation and subsequently followed the order not to open the door.
Guys, please, my hands are full. I gotta get this in there. My boss told me to. Please, guys.
This is Zeus. He chose to donate $5, which means he feels like he's responsible for a $500 donation.
Hey guys, was there anyone in here who didn't have one of these key cards?
Yeah, sorry, I let someone in.
Okay, I will be right back.
Miss, that was me. Don't take the blame for me. It was me. I thought you would here.
Okay, just stay right here, guys. I will be right back.
Even though Zeus donated money, he still did what many of us would consider the right thing. He confessed. Situations like this can be difficult. We don't always like what we learn about ourselves. In fact, one of the participants who donated the largest amount allowed Noah to be removed by security and asked to not be included in this episode. Our last participant was Michael, who did not donate.
Hey, hello. I got a box out here, man. I can't. Hello? Thank you, man.
I'm amazed that no one has asked the guy for a badge.
Right.
Was there someone in here?
This guy just came in. He was banging on the door.
Uh-huh.
Came in, picked something up, and he walked out.
Okay. Did he have a badge?
I don't know.
I let him in, so.
I let him in. I don't know what happened. He's banging the door.
Michael initially confessed, his behavior in line with moral licensing. But Noah spoke up, giving Michael an out. Will Michael stick to the truth?
Oh, here we go.
Okay.
You let the guy in.
Son, can you tell me what happened?
Yeah, guy was knocking on the door. He said, can I please come in? Something about his boss, and then...
You said...
Guy's banging on the door. He stayed at the box. Open the door for him. He comes in here. He takes something and he walks out.
And no, you let him in?
Yeah.
Okay, you open the door and let him in. Okay.
What must be racing through Michael's head right now?
It's very hard to imagine. This is a very strange situation.
Obviously.
A regular person to be in, yeah.
I think you're just thinking, why is this kid saying he did it?
Trying to figure it out, yeah.
I think at this point, you and your mom are going to need to come with me.
I can.
Because we're going to need to talk. We're going to need to talk to the police because he opened the door. And he was not supposed to open the door, and he opened the door.
If you just listen, I tell you, just listen. I promise we're right.
Come with me.
Promise. Just keep your hands to yourself and do what I ask you to do.
We should go in.
Right.
What made it difficult to come forward and admit that you were the one who opened the door?
I felt uncomfortable that something was stolen, one. Two, that this kid was going to take the blame. I mean, I needed to step up and be accountable if I opened the door. But it was just, didn't quite know what was going on in that scenario there.
Michael's behavior shows us just how complicated moral reasoning is. That even when we want to do the right thing, It doesn't take much for us to step back and abandon that sense of morality if and when we are given an out. So, Kyle, I was pretty surprised by how far so many people were willing to let the wrong blame game go.
Viewers may well be sitting there judging the people who didn't jump up to take responsibility. But I think the kind of evidence we're gathering shows that it's much more possible than you think to get regular people to do things that they immediately feel regretful about. Another kind of lesson I think we get here is to remind ourselves how sensitive all of us are to features of the situation, even if we feel in our heart of hearts like there's no way we could ever have wound up doing it.
That is probably the number one lesson, and I'm so grateful to the participants we had here today who helped us illustrate that, because without the illustrations, it's just a word in a textbook.
Right.
We are all capable of doing things we'd never expect ourselves to do. And the choices that you make can have less to do with how good or bad you are as a person and more to do with how you've acted recently. Now that might sound unfortunate, but we are imperfect creatures. And that's nothing to be ashamed of, because we are also curious. And the more we learn about why and how we make the moral choices that we do, the better we'll be able to tackle difficult questions in the future. And as always, thanks for watching.
All right, so I thought that kind of tried to close the loop on this idea that good people don't always do good things, or if you do something good, you feel you're a good person, it might lead you to doing less moral things. And basically our judgments of what's right and wrong greatly affected by our past. I think Rory demonstrated that she's more concerned and empathetic to others in these kind of experiments as someone who had been in an experiment like this herself. And that it's rare that people go into things with ill intentions towards others, but it doesn't mean that they don't end up doing things that harm others. All right, so that's all I have for you guys for today. We'll meet again on Monday and talk about real-world research and prepare you for your last of your quizzes. So I'll have the feedback to you on your papers by the end of this week. I'm almost done with those. You guys are you have some really great ideas with the questions. Now the hard part, thinking about how we're going to find people, what kind of sampling method you would use, and thinking about what kind of data collection method you would use, whether it's a survey, an interview, or experiment, or some modification. There's a few other types of data collection that we haven't talked about. We're going to talk about on Monday, something called the single subject study design, where you're tracking one or very few people over time, testing out different kinds of interventions and the like. So the idea with your paper, the final version of it, is to recycle what you got from the first part, setting up the question. That's fine, you don't need to rewrite that. But now you're just going to add where you're going to find the people from, what kind of recruiting strategy you would use, trying to use the vocabulary that you can from the class, and what data collection tools you might use. And the more you can describe, the better, using the various methods that we're using. Sometimes the answer can be gotten from existing secondary data, like we talked about today, but very oftentimes you're going to have to collect some of your own primary data, either quantitative or qualitative, and so try to use the vocabulary as much as you can as you start to draft up your final papers. You're almost done with this class. You've done the midterm, you've done the proposal. All that's left is one more quiz. The final paper, which is around 7 pages, give or take. You've already written 1 to 3 pages of it, depending on what you've already done, and final exam, and you're done. You'll be able to finish